a Russian invasion of Ukraine. That may be taking some of the risk premium out of the grain and oilseed markets today, and they are selling off double digits down in the case of soybeans. March corn futures 6.46 and a quarter, down almost a nickel, and even nickel down on the May at 6.45 and a half. July 6.40 and three quarters, 4.5 cents lower. And beans 15.62 and three quarters. March contract down 20 and a quarter, 20 cents lower. May at 15.66 and a quarter. March wheat 7.91 and three quarters, 6 cents lower. The meats are up. April live.
The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Sound Off. I'm glad to have you. My name's Nate Laux. Of all the people that I've wanted to spend Valentine's Day with, it's you, our listeners. Happy Valentine's Day. Glad to have you with us. We have Mike Rosenbaum, LaPorte County counselor, in the show today. But before we get to him, I do want to say a couple things. We've got some shows coming up. Mayor Tom Dermody will be with us here very soon on Friday. We've got, I just confirmed in March, we've got Sean Fagan and John Lake coming back. So the two prosecutors will be on. I'm going to try to do as many of the shows with candidates that are opposing candidates, essentially, competing for the same spot. I'm going to try to do them in the same week, in a similar week, so that are close enough that you can remember who's been talking these kind of things and some of the things that they're saying. So I'm excited about that. We've got some great shows coming up. If you ever have an idea for a show, shoot us an email at soundoff@967theeagle.com, and I'd be happy to consider it. Now, I can't commit to it because your idea might not be any good. But if it's a good idea, I love good ideas, and we'll take it. So today we've got Mike Rosenbaum on the show today. Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm going to echo your same thoughts about the Happy Valentine's Day. And with that being said, I have to really do a special Happy Valentine's Day wish to my wife, Dottie. It's kind of interesting. We met the first night at college in Waterville, Maine, on a school bus on 9/6/1976.
It's been a couple years.
Just a few. We were married on 9/6/1986.
Wow.
So in the city of her birth, we were married in Providence, Rhode Island. So I have been married over 35 years and have known her over 45.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, if anybody thinks it's always easy, it's not. But you work. You love somebody, you're going to work it out. And I love this woman to death. And so therefore, thank you for being my partner.
As my grandparents both said that we're married over 60 years, they said, Nate, it's not always easy, but at the end of the day, it's been worth it. So so happy Valentine's Day to Dottie as well. Glad to have you with us on the show. Thanks for spending the day with us. We've got Mike Rosenbaum in the show for about the next 40 minutes or so. If you have a question, 219-362-0522. You cannot text us. Text line's still not working. Not sure what's going on. I'm not our tech guy. But you are welcome to call us, or you can email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. So just email me instead of texting, and I'll ask any questions that you have. Hey, Mike, you are running for re-election coming up here. So you've got a primary. I don't think you have a primary candidate, though, do you? Oh, you do. Okay, so you're running. You ran 4 years ago. What are some of the things that you're most excited about that you guys have accomplished in the last 4 years, or that since you've been on the council?
Well, one of the things is it's great to have a greater diversity. I mean, when I got on the council, and this is no insult, there were 3 firemen, and right now we're down to 1, and he was a fire chief. That's great. But we also have other people in other industries, and now you have myself, who's a CPA, someone with financial background, which is, I think, without sounding egotistical or anything, I'm one of the few. Mm-hmm. With a financial background, and that's really helped us get through a lot of parts. We do a lot of talking off the not during meetings, so in between meetings, we do, and we cross lines. This is not a Democrat versus a Republican thing, and people are trying to, even when it comes to the lit tax, people are trying to point it this way or that way. We'll get into that in a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But we've been able to manage but we've been able to manage the budget process. We've been able to move more money this past year to payroll, which is something that we really wanted to do. We have cut when it comes to the regular everyday operations. We've cut that every year. And then there are some things that have been put that we pay for out of other funds, and we're really trying to get those back into the general fund, because an example, the riverboat fund is been decreased, and that's state ruled, and that's not something we can control, and it's also off. It's a year or two behind. It lags a year or two behind how well the blue chip has been doing. Well, think about 2020. Mm-hmm. And they did have to shut down along with a lot of other people. So there's a period of time that they didn't do, period.
Yep.
So it eventually comes up and gets caught up. So we'll get a little bit less for that. But because we have been saving money and we put money aside in an emergency fund, we were able to cover the costs for COVID-19. I'm going to tell you, I know that we got $3.6 million, but it was reimbursed. We had to lay this stuff out first, but we had the money. And that was all because of things that were done before I got there. Now we've actually increased that fund where we want to make it up to $15 million. Because the plan is, as long as there's no other emergency, when it comes time 8 years down the road, when we can first pay off the bonds off of Michigan City Courthouse, why pay interest if we can pay it off? And so that's what we're looking to do. That's where some of the planning is. I'm going to take a moment and we'll talk about some other funds that we have available to us. You'll hear, and I know that they're going to talk about it at the commissioners meeting this week also, that the council has to its disposal several different funds. The problem is a lot of those funds have special rules on what they can be spent on. That's one problem. That's one issue, one concern, and one of the things that you have to manage. The second thing is what you've committed to use out of some funds in a future period. And I'll give you an example. We have a very good planner. His name is Mitch Bishop, and he goes out and he gets grants, one after the other after the other. Sometimes we have to put up 5%, sometimes we have to put up 20%. But if you've got $1 million project every year for the next 5 years, and it's a 20-80 split where you only have to come up with $200,000 and you get federal or state funds of $800,000, you bet we're going to take that money and we're going to use it. And we're going to use it exactly for what we're allowed to use it for. And so we're going to make sure that we have, and I said 5 years, $200,000, $1 million. We're going to make sure that we have $1 million over that period of 5 years to spend. So you may see and you may hear that we've got $5 million here or something there. You don't know what has already been pledged for a certain program. And sometimes we can't control when those programs come in. They're delayed or they're not completed timely. I mean, you've got a lot of people fighting for a few vendors to get things done. And we're just trying to work with pricing the best we can because, as we all know, we're getting hit with a bit of inflation. Supply, we can't control the supplies, as materials for our vendors, and then they can't in turn come to us. I mean, personally, I know I'm waiting. It takes 6 months to get a commercial boiler for your house, and I'm on the wait list. Okay, and thank God it hasn't completely blown up or anything, but it's on its last leg in 60 plus years. I think it's I'm just going to be patient, and it'll be installed during the summer. I mean, right now, that the one I have is the size of a pizza oven. If you go into one of those bakeries that has those metal ovens that's 5 foot high and those big metal doors that slide down, it is really that huge.
So you've got all this, and I think it's a good reminder for our listeners because it is. It's a hard thing to understand. In the nonprofit world, we work with some governmental money as well, and oftentimes, there are stipulations, right? Where this money can be spent, but also how the money can be spent, and what only a certain percentage of this money can go towards staffing or these kind of things. And so it isn't just oftentimes, the news might say you get a $5 million grant, but there are rules, there are stipulations, and it can become a lot more complicated. But it's better to have the money than not have the money, right? Yeah,
and there are some taxes that we pay, highway taxes that we pay, that do come back to us, and they help us pay for our highway department. We also, our prosecutor's office is paid for through the state. There are some funds that come for other programs, as well through the state. So you've got to be very careful to understand that those funds just can't be touched. They're there and they're going to pay those things. And, yes, do we have a lit in place right now? We do. And what can we use that for? Primarily for, it is economic development. And there is a little broad range, but economic development doesn't mean payroll.
Yep.
Economic development doesn't mean public safety. And I wished I could say that it did. Now, someone also said, well, why don't we go to the state because they have so much money? Well, the state put in place the possibility of finding funds yourself. And they're going to force us that if we want money for public safety, they're going to say, hey, we put in place that you can go out and get and apply and process and proceed with getting a new lit tax that is for public safety only. And then only those things can be paid out of that. So one of the interesting things about it is if we're spending, and I'm just going to say, if we use 0.5%, which is what's been talked about, if we use that means that the county will get over $6 million. So what happens to our budget if we get $6 million over here? Well, it means that $1.3 million, which goes to the Sheriff's Department pension every year, which is coming out of riverboat funds. The first thing is that can now come out of this $6 million of funds. That means that now those funds are now available for anything else, because that's like a free spending fund, almost as good as a general fund. We use it like that. We try not to use it for payroll. The other thing is the payroll that's coming out of the general fund will now be paid from these funds, from that $6 million. Okay? So what does that mean to the general fund? There becomes, yes, some of the funds get released that were being used to pay for their salaries and now is available for other things. So how does that help the common employee that works for the county? It enables us to get them a little bit better market wages. Yep. And we're not going to go, boom, everybody, hello, everybody, here's so much more money. That's not the way it works. No, it goes over time, as you have money available to it. And if we can still keep, control on things. But there's a point, one of the other things you asked me before was, what were some of the accomplishments? Well, we started taking care of our properties better. And so, and one example is just the facility maintenance facility over in Monroe. There was talk about buying another building. I'm not going to get into details on that. We were able to take our own building and for about the same amount of money, put in all new windows, put up walls, put in doors, lock, and so that now we have a centralized location for all of our PPE and for other supplies as well. And it's nice. It's our own building. And rather than wait and let it crumble apart,
All right, we've got Mike Rosenbaum, LaPorte County Council member, on the show today, and we're talking about different things. Mike's talked a little bit about the local income tax, lit. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that down the road. But if you have a question, 219-362-0522, you're welcome to call me. You cannot text right now, but you can call, or you can email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Let's get to a caller before we go on break real quick. Hey, thanks so much for calling. You're on the show. You're our first caller. What's your question for Councilperson Mike Rosenbaum?
Hello?
Hi, you're on the show.
Yes, I was wondering, he talked about the lit. Does he support the lit?
All right, yeah. Councilman?
Oh, yeah. Straightforward. And before people start threatening me with not reelecting me and all of that, what I'm going to do is I've decided already where I'm going with this, and I'm going to tell you in a moment. You have to look at what's available and what are the permanent solutions. So far, no one else has come up with a permanent solution. This is a permanent solution. And so therefore, that's why I'm for it, because I'm also for public safety. I've watched too many EMS people leave. The current year, we've lost 5 deputies out of the Sheriff's Department already. So we need to fix this problem, and we need to fix it now. One of the things that I heard during our meetings, and I'm sorry to get a little long on this, is that EMS, when we were talking about EMS, we had a person come up and they said there are X amount of EMS professionals, people who are licensed or people who have who are EMTs, and therefore there's only so many of them. And if other people are picking them off, we don't have them. And if there's only X amount of them that work in the state, you're not going to be pulling from out of state.
Yeah.
So you have to keep the people who are here working for us.
Yeah.
And at some sort of in equity, in some sort of equity format, so that they can't, we don't want them jumping for $15,000.
Yeah, and I think what's important for any time you talk about governmental things like this, and again, nobody wants to raise taxes. I think every person on the commission and the council has said nobody wants to raise taxes, especially in an election year. But really, anytime. However, there needs to be a solution, right? So, and sometimes you go through all these situations and you go through all the scenarios that you can, and you realize that the only way we can do it is through this way, and there's a way, and you follow it, right?
And here's something to also think about. I started talking a little bit before about how we have so many funds, and so we've gone through this process. This is just not a simple answer. I was not on board. If you heard me talk about this several months ago, there was the possibility that we were going to lose business personal property tax. Now that's $3.3 million to this county. Well, we don't have to make it up just yet because the state hasn't decided what they're going to do.
That legislation did not go through yet?
No, it has not gone through. They're still talking about it. Right now, they are down in Indy. They're now they've reviewed a lot of bills on both sides. They've swapped some, and in the next 2 weeks, they're going to make some final decisions on what's going to go forward. And the conversation is, if this goes forward on the business personal property tax, where they lower the ceiling, and that meaning, what I mean by that is so that if property goes to zero, it can go down to zero. But they right now currently said no personal property goes below 30% for a tax base. Well, if you've had something for 10 years, you've already used it, and under depreciation rules, for the most part, for equipment, it's already depreciated. So therefore, why are you still paying tax on it? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of their theory. Why should you doing that? Well, you just can't cut it off from the locals. And they understand that. They've heard it. The AIC, which is the Association of Indiana Counties, has been blasting in their ears.
There wasn't a county in favor of this cut.
No, 92. And I'm going to say there are also 71 counties that already have a public safety lit. Mm-hmm. So I don't say that because we should follow everybody else. I'm just saying that this is a solution that everybody else has had to go to. So going back to the personal property tax issue, so what they're thinking of now, and this is just, again, they're not going to, if they're going to cut it, they're going to issue a credit, but the state's going to pay the credit back to the employer or the company. And so it's not going to come away. So the county will still get their $3.3 million, and whatever we would have lost, the state's going to make up from somewhere. And I haven't figured this out because I don't handle the state budget. God knows ours is good enough to be concerned about, and it's a little bigger than some of the local cities.
All right. Well, we've got Mike Rosenbaum on the show. Mike's a LaPorte County councilperson. If you have a question, 219-362-0522. We're going to take a really quick break. We'll be right back here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Car problems often strike at the absolute worst times, but you can rest well knowing that Cannon's Automotive Service is here for you and dedicated to get you back on the road with prompt, efficient, same-day service. The same Cannon's commitment that LaPorte has trusted for over 50 years. Cannon's Automotive Service, now with 2 locations, 710 Tyler Street and 909 Boyd Boulevard.
With Cannon's Automotive, we fix everything.
Vote Fagan 2022. Who is Sean Fagan? He's a lawyer. He's a Republican. Sean Fagan, running for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Sean Fagan knows that LaPorte County is a great place to live, and he wants to keep it that way. Sean Fagan for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Be safe. Be strong. Let's work together. Vote Sean Fagan 2022. This message paid for by Fagan for Prosecutor.
Hey, who's hungry? Because I've got a deal for you. Dennis Siddell here to introduce you something new to the Morning Mayhem. Every weekday at 6:55, it's Denny's Diner. Yep, Joe and I will cook up some trivia questions, and if you have the correct answer, you'll be the winner of a $20 gift card from either JJ's Side Out Bar and Grill, the Burger Bar and Grill, JJ's Pizza Shack, Wanna Pizza, or Nowhere Bar and Grill. So join us weekdays for Denny's Diner at 6:55 on the Morning Mayhem for your chance to win here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Mission Louisiana weather.
Highs around 24 this afternoon. Under cloudy skies, southwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, lows dip down to about 14. Tomorrow, high of 36. From the Weather Center at hometownnewsnow.com. Right now, 17.
Thank you for tuning in to Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Welcome back, friends. This is Sound Off. My name's Nate Laux. We've got LaPorte County Councilperson Mike Rosenbaum on the show. If you have a question, 219-362-0522, or you can email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Thank you, everyone, for waiting on the line. Let's get to a bunch of callers now. Hey, thanks so much for calling. What's your thoughts on this?
Hello.
Hi, what's your question for Mike Rosenbaum?
Well, I do have a question. I mean, you're referring to saving money for the county. And LaPorte, Indiana has 92 counties, correct?
Yes.
And what does LaPorte County have that no other county has?
Me.
We have 2 courthouses.
That's right.
Yeah, that's one of the.
We're the
one of
only
two.
county in the state that has 2 courthouses. Now, how can we justify having 2 courthouses that's double the amount of money that's being paid out, and all the other counties seem to be able to manage on 1 courthouse, not 2?
Well, first of all,
I
sorry.
never could understand that.
You are not alone, and I thank you for asking the question, because I too, when I came on board, said, why do we have 2 courthouses, and especially when one is not even in the county seat. And it turns out that by law, we are required to have 1 courtroom in Michigan City. And if you're going to have 1 courtroom, how can you hold for all of the needs court in Michigan City? The problem that we have is if we were to try and bring everything to LaPorte, we would not be able to handle everything in the current building. And so therefore, a brand new building, which would be twice the size, would have to be built than what we were able to do in Michigan City.
So, yeah, it's a good point. We do have 2 courthouses, but one of them's not big enough to handle all of the business that we need.
And the other part is by law, we have to. It's the same thing. By law, we have to have a second a tax assessor. So we have a Michigan Township tax assessor.
Yeah.
And it's just a duplication. And unfortunately, under the state rules, that person is not as accountable as our county assessor. And we've done recent stuff to take care of that. And I know I'm behind a lot of it, and I'm not going to speak about that now.
All right, let's get to another caller. Hey, thanks so much for calling the show. Mike Rosenbaum's on the show. What's your question?
Yeah, I got a question. For the ARP money for the county employees, my father has been at the county for 43 years, recently going to be retiring here soon. He only received 1 payment. What's going to happen to the rest of that funding? Will he receive it or will he not? Second question I had is, does the county commissioners and the council consider the county highway essential? Thank you.
All right, thanks so much for calling. Let's parse that apart.
Yeah, there's two distinct different things. So the first of all, the way we wrote the bonuses is that you need to be employed with us in order to get the bonus. So we were trying to encourage people to stay with us, not grab the money and leave. Like I just mentioned, we knew of the 5 employees out of the deputies department. They only got 1, but if they got the full payment, we would have lost $15,000 and no employee in the future. So when you multiply that out by the number of people that we had lost in EMS, and we were concerned that we were going to lose that many people, there is some savings by doing that and stretching it out. Now, unfortunately, in your father's situation, if he leaves before 18 months are up, before June of 2023, then he will not get continued bonus payments. They're every 6 months, and you have to be here for each 6 months. You get $1,000, and that beats having it spread out in your paycheck.
All right, let's get to another caller here.
Oh, wait, there was a second question.
We do have, that's...
He asked, do we think it's essential? I will not speak for the commissioners, and I cannot speak for my fellow council members. I can only speak for myself. Yes, if you need to be dug out in the snow, and I know that, see, I live on a state highway, so for me, my road gets cleared. So, but I also know that if I go 1 block over, the city has to do it, or if I go on different highways, the county has to do it, and then out in the county, they take care of it. It takes time. And let me tell you, I've jumped in some of those trucks. I would not want to drive one of them.
Yeah, it's hard for me to understand them not being essential when the EMS or the police don't operate without them. So let's get to another caller here. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. Thanks for calling. We've got Mike Rosenbaum in the studio here. What's your question?
Thank you for coming on the air, Mr. Rosenbaum, and answering our questions. This is Steve Hollifield. My two questions basically revolve around the lit tax. First, what is your stance on it right now with department reductions, different ways of looking at how they spend the taxpayers' money? You just want more and more. The second part of my question is, I went on the county website. I saw the substantial increases for police and fire and EMTs and paramedics. And as of 10 days ago, when the fire chief or fire and police officer were on the radio, it was like a week ago Friday. Yeah. No one's applied for those jobs. What are you going to do? This is happening across America. If no one applies for them jobs, are you guys going to continue to raise the salaries? And then you'll have to raise everybody else's and then raise our taxes? This is happening all over. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there are communities that are getting applicants. I know South Bend is getting applicants right now, so LaPorte County is not. So.
You can't compare us to South Bend because they get so much federal funds that they have different resources, different pockets than we do. But let's try and answer all of those questions. It was more than just two. Mm-hmm. So I've already expressed my stances. I took a while for me to come to the conclusion that if a vote was taken today, I would say yes. But we're also looking, and we already have 5 letters from local communities that also would get advantage of this. And there's a total of 12 communities. And we're looking for each one of them to stand up and say, yes, we need this. So please do this. So we're not just talking to one city or another city. We're talking to the townships as well because it does affect them. You talked about major staff reductions. Well, I wish I could do more about it. I've only attacked a few departments on a few things, and those not directly where you're going to see me in public on stuff. We have seen reductions in the county assessor's office over the years. It takes a time to do it. I've fought adding people on a couple of times if you check some of my votes. But really, when it comes to doing this, you really need an efficiency study. And the only people that can hire anybody, it is the commissioners to do that. And would I support that? Absolutely. You said that you took a look at the county website and saw substantial increases. I'm not sure what you mean by substantial. The police officers only got increases of 6%. I mean, the sheriff's department, the deputies got 6%, while everybody else got 5%. And we did do something recently where we did bring EMS up to everybody else because they were getting paid 11 and change an hour, not even 15, which is kind of our new minimum. So we just pushed that through. And so are we going to? And then you asked the question. What are we going to do if we don't get anybody? Well, you know what? We have not fixed the problem yet for the sheriff's department. So if we're not getting anybody, it's because we haven't fixed it yet. So I can't talk about what we're going to do, but if we have to do it once, I don't want to do it twice, but we'll at least have funding available for us to do that. And so that's why I, again, have to go back to a permanent solution, which unfortunately is lit.
And I think having him on the show and hearing him, the sheriff does think that paying more will certainly maybe not fix everything, but will be an important step in fixing some of this.
Absolutely. He has definitely shared that publicly, privately, and,
All right, we're going to take another break, our final break of the day. If you've got a question, 219-362-0522. We got some calls left on the line. We'll get to you as soon as we get back from this break on 96.7 The Eagle.
Ben Conowitz here, LaPorte Seamless Gutter, 219-362-9972. Fall is here, and that means leaves and debris for your gutter system. We've got 3 separate types of gutter guard for your home. Leaves and debris come in all shapes and sizes. We don't need a one-size-fits-all for your gutter. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 219-362-9972, or you can visit us on the web, www.lpseamless.com.
It's a brand new year, and that means it's time to head someplace different. And that place is Michigan City Kia. Come check out our new 2022 Kia lineup, including sedans, SUVs, crossovers, hybrids, and electric models. From gas sippers to family haulers and everything in between, there's a Kia vehicle to fit every budget and lifestyle. Come in for a test drive and check out Michigan City Kia today. Or visit MichiganCityKia.com, now part of the Bob Lacurcio Auto Group.
You don't like buying a car this way.
A life worth celebrating should be honored in a fashion fitting for the personality. At Haverstock, they build a service around the life story of your loved one. Here's Richard Weiss, owner of Haverstock Funeral Home.
At Haverstock Funeral Home, let me personalize your family's life story. Life celebrations can be a fisherman, a golfer, love Christmas, enjoy the casinos having our slot machine on display, a baker, car mechanic, or even an Elvis impersonator. We do it all for you to keep the memory of your loved one with you forever. Please visit our Facebook page to see what we're doing.
Haverstock Funeral Home and Cremation Service, portraying the life story of your loved one. Learn more at haverstockfuneralhome.com or stop by 602 Maple Avenue, LaPorte.
Motivated, loyal, flexible. These are qualities of today's older workers. Goodwill has helped seniors in this community access valuable job training and work experience. And now these older workers are ready to contribute to your workforce. Your next best employee may be just a phone call away. Call Sharon Lavengood at 574-276-9995 today. This program is supported by the U.S. Department of Labor. It is part of an award totaling $908,656 with 11.62% in additional funds contributed by Goodwill Industries of Michiana. The contents are those of the author and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by, the DOL or the U.S. government. For more information, please visit dol.gov.
We're waiting to hear from you. Dial or text 362-0522 and let us know what you think. That's 362-0522. Back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
All right, welcome back, friends, to our final segment of Sound Off. We've got councilperson Mike Rosenbaum in the studio with us. Here's a question from our Facebook line. Can you ask Mr. Rosenbaum to explain what the settlement fund is in the commissioner's claims and allowances for February published recently? It is $67 million. Is that a typo?
67 million, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know specifically because I don't get to see the details of it. What we do have is that could very well be, if that's saying that we have this much money, well, we get our tax money twice a year and then we pay all our bills from it. So if that's what it's talking about, fine. Because usually the money that comes out is what they call claims. Mm-hmm. So this could just be the tax money from last November that we just got.
All right, let's get to another caller. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. Thanks for waiting on the line. What's your question for councilperson Mike Rosenbaum?
Hi, hello, how are you?
Hey, good to have you on the show. Thanks for calling.
Good. I just want to call him more of a comment. I'd like to thank him for taking a stance and knowing numbers, knowing certain funds can only be used for certain things. And instead of being a politician and worrying about his political career, taking a stance on doing what is right for the county, that's what comes first. Instead of when I hear a commissioner at a council meeting reading a statement that a county attorney probably wrote for her, saying, well, we'll ask the state for money. The state is the one who put this lit in place and to go about it by, is it right that they put it in the county? No, but that's the process that they've done. And I'd just like to thank him and tell him I'll be reaching out to him and he'll have my full support. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for calling. Let's get to another caller. Thanks so much for calling the show today. We've got Mike Rosenbaum in the studio. What's your question?
Hi, I have a question about that sand mining deal that was going on. I think it was around the Schultz Road area.
Okay.
I don't live in that area. I'm in the Rolling Prairie area. But there was something similar going on out here. And I'm just wondering about that because it seems like if that couldn't be resolved in the 2 or 3 or however many years it's taken, and they're still doing it, what chance do we have of coming up and asking for a resolution if we have the same problem? It just seems like those people have done everything they can and nothing is being done. That's my question.
Okay, I will tell you this, is that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you may not be aware of at this point in time. There's a group that's supposed to be in charge of this, but also we also have I'm trying to think of the right building planning, and what happens is they can only enforce the laws that exist on the books. And there could possibly be a sort of loophole here that is being taken advantage of. I am telling you, I'm reading through a lot of things that are being said. This is coming up in front of the BZA. It's coming up in front of the commissioners. These are the people that have to address it. MS4, if you're not aware, they're a group that we are now redoing. The employees that used to be that group have left. We're now putting it under another department. And so it's all about zoning violations, but it can only be a zoning violation if something's on the books. And so that's some of the things that we're going back and forth with.
Who creates our zoning laws then? Is that a commissioner?
It's the commissioners do all the laws except for money.
Okay, yeah. So if you've got a question about some of the laws that are on there, you can certainly talk to the commissioners as well. Let's get to another caller. Hey, thanks so much for calling and listening to Sound Off. Glad to have you. What's your question for Councilperson Mike Rosenbaum?
Nate, thanks for taking my call. Our duly elected Mike Rosenbaum. Mike, you didn't state, what are you, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, just outer space? What's your affiliation, if you could, please? And then I get questions for you.
Well, I wish I was Jeff Bezos and could have gone out of space on that flight, but I wasn't. But I'm a registered Republican.
Okay.
And so much so that I'm a member. I'm an officer of the party as well. So I'm
You're
all
the treasurer,
in.
correct? You're the treasurer of the LaPorte County GOP. Yeah.
It's interesting. Thank you for taking time out and serving the public. It's a hell of a job. I mean, it's a jungle. People don't understand it's a jungle. I mean, to sort out between who you have to answer to and who you don't have to answer to, and staying with principles. What is right and what is wrong? Let's make the best of everything. And I get a kick out of real quick. I get a kick out of the scapegoat. Well, let's ask the township affiliates out there what they want on this the new tax that they're proposing through Tom Dermody, the Mayor Tom Dermody. Well, yeah, they can just say, well, the council passed it. Our hands are clean. I'm Caesar. We don't have to worry about this. My hands are washed. But anyway, nonetheless, the situation with our police and our firemen or EMS. What I want to touch on there through the county council. They have a very lucrative, very, very wonderful pension fund, don't they? Isn't it $1 a month taken out of the paycheck for each policeman and EMS? Because I don't believe we have a fire department in the county other than our individual cities and township trustees that are volunteers mostly. But isn't it $1 a month taken out of the fund, and after 20 years, it's a $2 million automatic pension? Am I correct in that area or close to it? Because it's lucrative, and I think this needs to be impressed upon the people that are like, look, jump on board, ladies and gentlemen, please. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm wondering if secret societies are getting in the way of this hiring process. I know...
Yeah, secret societies. Talk about the.
I'll try and answer it. I don't have I do not know specifically about the $1 issue that you're saying and how it becomes $2 million. What I do know is they have in the county, that is, they have a much better retirement plan than the localities. So if you're talking about the city of LaPorte or the Michigan City, I know the county has a much better retirement plan. So sometimes people may think, well, I'm going to leave here and go to the city because they're paying better money. Well, then they're going to forget about the retirement plan. So it's part of the benefit package. And as a person, you look at everything.
Yep.
Thank you.
And hopefully you can look into a little bit more of that as well. And so I don't think we have any more callers right now, but we've got a couple minutes left. You're going to share something a little bit about your story or a little bit about yourself. You've got a couple minutes to do that, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, I didn't grow up in LaPorte. I chose LaPorte. So what happens is when you don't grow up in LaPorte, people don't know you from your childhood. And so they don't know, other than speaking to you as an adult, what you've been through in your life. I mean, my father never made more than $36,000 a year. He was a postal worker. And so he worked for the federal government. And then when he retired, he got a $20,000 a year pension. That was it period. I have there's 4 blood relatives. I have 4 siblings by blood. I'm the third of 4 children born to Jack and Sonia Rosenbaum, that is. And in addition to the 4 of us, my parents took care and loved 35 foster children. And out of the 35 foster children, 3 of them are adopted siblings right now. And it is very special to be part of that large and that giving and having that empathy in my life. And because of that, I have a long history of servitude. And even while being county councilman, I've still done quite a bit of things. I serve on 4 nonprofit boards as a treasurer. And let me tell you, that's not just an easy thing. You have to take care of everything: deposits, reconciliation, reports, letting everybody know. I've been involved with the city of LaPorte with junior baseball. I got to meet a lot of great families and got to watch a lot of kids play to the best. And one of my favorite stories just happened yesterday. This kid is no longer in baseball. He's working at a retail store in Michigan City. And I run into him and he tells me he's very proud of the fact and that he wants to talk to me is even incredible too. And then he tells me that he got accepted in Purdue and then he's going to start next fall. And not only does he tell me that, he tells me who his roommate's going to be is another kid I watched play baseball and still will probably play baseball for LaPorte this year if he's not injured. So I'm hoping for that. Also, I've been for over 9 years, I've been a substitute teacher in the area. Now, most of it is through New Prairie United School Corp. But I've also been in LaPorte, and I've been down in South Central, just trying to get a feel for all the schools. And, I spend most of my time up in New Prairie. And the reason for it is those teachers were very accepting to me 8-9 years ago. And I learned a lot from them. And so it was a great experience. Recently, I left a former job in October, and I took a couple of months. I took 8 weeks, actually, where I was subbing straight. And I was a 4th grade teacher for 5 of those weeks. And it's incredible to learn what teachers go through. And it's incredible to learn yourself what you can do. When I minored in education, I majored in accounting and business and law and everything else. So to find out I could do stuff like this, it was kind of incredible. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Mrs. Z's 4th grade class, and that's all you're going to get. I'm looking forward to seeing them again if they go to their winter festival on the 19th. So if they're going to be there, I'm looking to be there on Saturday. And then the only other thing I'm going to share is I've had a long history of being involved with the scouting organization. And back on the East Coast, when I was there, my wife and I took a program called the Merit Badge Fair, which is where the boys get to do their they get to earn their merit badges by coming to a safe environment and a place that they really had to do their work. And we grew it from 125 people to 1,500 over the time that we were involved over 10 years. And we did it from a Saturday to both Saturday and Sunday. If you ever want to watch 250 pizzas disappear in 10 minutes or less, that's the place to do it. So we served that just to make sure everybody had food and all of that. So, and then even when I came here, I was living in Granger when I first came here, and I got involved with Algonquin District, which is a little east of here, and I started a merit badge fair there, which is still being held to this day annually. Right. And so, you create these legacies.
All right.
And so this is some part of me that a lot of people don't know of how involved I've been. And one last thing, I've also been involved with the courts as a court-appointed youth advocate.
All right, and I want to thank you so much for listening. Coming up on the show on Friday, we've got Mayor Tom Dermody. If you have a question, please let us know. We're going to work hard on getting that text line back for you. But you are always welcome to email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Again, go back and listen to our podcast. If you're wanting to know more about the local income tax, we had a great podcast just on that to learn a little bit about how it's geared and things like that. But most importantly, be good to yourself, be good to others, and keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle.